it was a normal, healthy pregnancy. But at 27 weeks, I started experiencing some pain, which later I learned were contractions. And that's when I learned that I was in preterm labor. But I was like, I'm not ready today. Like, it's only 33 weeks. The book tells me at 34 weeks is when things get better for the baby in terms of development, and I wasn't there yet. Everything just happened so fast that there's still a lot of blurry moments where I can't really even remember everything that happened up until his birth. He would just lay very still and he wouldn't move like all of the other babies in the NICU. And it wasn't until really about 2-3 weeks when he was home, in comparison to all of my friends who've had babies, he just didn't move the same way. He didn't really babble or coo the same way. And so that's when I was just like, something's a little different, but I just don't know what it is. And of course, everything was, well, he's a preemie, you have to adjust his age. So right now, he's not gonna do a lot of the things that typically 1 to 2-month-old babies do, but there was just something in the back of my mind that was telling me that that wasn't it. Specialists, especially that treat premature babies, are extremely difficult to find, even in a big city like San Antonio. And so every day that the doctor was just like, well, we'll just wait and see, was extremely frustrating, because I wanted somebody just to see my son and just either reassure me that everything was fine or tell me, yes, you're right, Mom, like your gut instinct is on point and this is what we need to do to help him. Just trying to get him to a clinic was extremely difficult because all we had was private insurance. And finally, we were able to find one clinic that was willing to just let us pay out of pocket for each session. The physical therapist that we were seeing had now started noticing that there were other issues that needed to be addressed in the form of occupational therapy as well as speech therapy. So we went from 1 therapist a week to 3 therapists a week. We tried as long as we could, but we ended up having to tell her, unfortunately, we just can't afford this anymore. So now you need to tell me, out of these 3, which one's the most important, because we could only afford 1. And that's when she said that he needed all 3. And unfortunately, there was nothing that they could do, even if we were put on a payment plan, like just how frequently he needed the therapy, they just were not going to be able to help us at that point. And so that's when she recommended Brighton Center. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna give it a shot. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm gonna call them excited, and they're just gonna tell me that they can't help us because we don't have the insurance we need. And we're gonna be right back at square one. And I called, and it was a life-changing phone call telling me that they were gonna schedule our first visit in our home to come see exactly what Ishan was going to need in terms of support. I felt so much relief because now he was in the comfort of our home. On the days that he didn't have therapy, we could do the same things that they were doing at our house with the things that we own to help him, because with the clinic, they had a lot of tools that we did not own at home, so it was very hard to mirror what they were doing as homework. So here, it was using our couch and using our table and our chair. And so once they would leave, it was very easy for us to mimic what they were doing and really help him do that extra homework before the next session. It was at his 1.5-year visit when the doctor recommended that he needed to be around peers his age to really be able to get that social interaction. Again, really nervous about a daycare that was going to take a 1.5-year-old that wasn't crawling, he was scooting, who didn't have any words, who was nowhere close to being potty trained. Now, how do you find a daycare suitable for a child with all of those extra needs? That was when Brighton's daycare, that's when we enrolled him there, because they understood and they work with children that have delays and disabilities. And so once he was in that daycare, I, of course, was just like, I'm his mom, like, who can do better than me? Well, they can, because he started walking, he started talking just months after enrollment. He actually took his first steps when his EIS came back from maternity leave. She walked into the class and he was playing, and she bent down to say hi to him, and he got up and he took steps towards her and gave her the biggest hug. And before kids, I remember thinking, I don't want anyone to share those milestones. Like, I want to be the one that sees him walk and sees him run and sees him talk and the first crawl and the first time he stands up. But I actually love the fact that that was his first time walking, and it was to his EIS therapist to know that that was the kind of impact that she's had on his life, that he was going to stand up and take his first steps there, because she was home to him. And Brighton, the daycare, was home to him, and he felt safe that if he did fall, somebody was going to catch him just like his mom would have. The fear that I had when he was going to start daycare was exactly how I felt for kinder, because the schools are bigger, children are typically not like Ishan. And so that's when I got the advocate to come with us, to come to those ARD meetings, to really make sure that the goals, everything that he needed in terms of support, in case if he does have a sensory meltdown, what do you do? How do you prepare him for a fire drill? How do you prepare him when things get a little rowdy in the cafeteria? How do you help him decompress? So there's a lot of things that they really help educate the parent and then give us the tools that we need to feel empowered. So as we're going through the ARD process, which he's going to have for the duration of his school career, it gives us more information. It gives us more in our tool belt to be able to say, this is what I feel, needs to happen, and this is how we're going to do it. All the no's were turning into yeses. It was like magic that I still cannot articulate well enough, because yes, we can see him. Yes, there's a daycare. Yes, we're gonna help him. And that boy is always smiling. He's always so happy. He doesn't let anything bother him. He'll greet you with a hug. I don't think he forgets anyone's name that he meets. And I don't think that boy would have the dexterity that he has, or the ability to speak in the way that he does, if he didn't have that support from Brighton. So they were no more dead ends. And I try not to think about what life would be like without Brighton, because I don't want to think about all of that darkness and all of the fear, because I don't have it anymore.